in trying to cover all of Obama's lies, it is dizzying. And then you look at the Obama supporters and you feel sorry for them. I mean, you don't even dislike them. I mean, I remember with the George Bush supporters, it didn't matter how much he lied about WMDs, it didn't matter how much torture he pushed or how much corruption or how much gun control. The so-called conservatives were so signed on to his bandwagon that they didn't want to hear any of it because they were scared by the terrorism. And also, got into the emotionalism of crying about those that were killed and putting flags outside their house and just basically getting into it. Meanwhile, the very people they were praising for saving us were the ones that had carried out the attacks. I felt sorry for them as well, but to watch these Obama people, to know they're being deceived and know they're being set up and taken for a ride is really upsetting. And everything he said has been a lie. Everything he has pushed has been a fraud. Everything. I mean, he lies more than Bill Clinton. He lies more than George W. Bush. He lies more than Tricky Dick Nixon. I mean, and he's been in office a month and a half? No, not even a month and a half. Everything else in life seems to speed by at, warp drive level. But everything with Obama, it's just crawling because I'm studying him and watching him. And I mean, this guy is a piece of work. And almost everybody in his administration is a criminal. Almost everybody in his administration doesn't pay taxes. They're a bunch of Chicago crime machine individuals, or they're Israeli public government operatives. But here's just one little clip we're putting in the Obama deception. Now, this is from last year. Listen carefully.
I'll also institute an absolute gift ban so that no registered lobbyist can curry favor with members of my administration based on how much they can spend on a fancy dinner. I'll make our government open and transparent so that anyone can ensure that our business is the people's business. Justice Louis Brandeis once said, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. And as president, I'm going to make it impossible for congressmen or lobbyists to slip pork barrel projects or corporate welfare into laws when no one's looking, because when I'm president, meetings where laws are written will be more open to the public, no more secrecy. That's a commitment I make to you as president.
Stop right there. I mean, there's so many lies. This guy can jam so many lies into so few words. It's just all lies. He has reaffirmed total Bush secrecy. That's in the headlines last week. He is telling England to not let the torture orders come out that Bush ordered, protecting Bush and saying they're going to continue that policy. He has done nothing but appoint registered top lobbyists. I mean, all the kingpins. Top lobbyist Wall Street, top lobbyist Goldman Sachs, top lobbyist Raytheon, defense contractors. And it won't just be, I mean, in the Bush administration, it was bad with lobbyists, but normally you'd have policy wonks and professors and academics in the mid ranks. With Obama, it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 deep lobbyists. I mean, this is the lobbyist administration. I didn't realize this. I knew he was lying and appointing a bunch of lobbyists, but doing the research in the last few weeks for the film to be, precise and to look at the lobbyist list, there has never been an administration with anything near this. They are just looting everything. And donors, they are bringing in donors. Your corporation gave $1 million to Obama. Well, you're going to own healthcare policy. I mean, you thought the Republican senators, like Frist and people, stealing billions of dollars through their lobbying arms and through Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, they were convicted of that civilly and just paid a tiny fine. It's like, I stole, $50 billion, but I pay a $225 million fine. Oh boy, slap me on the hand there. And I'd talk about Frist and people, and they'd say, how dare you, you liberal scumbag, not liking our wonderful Republicans. And then now I'm like, Obama's appointing nothing but lobbyists. They're stealing everything. Shut up, right-wing, fascist, racist. You people love being slaves, don't you? You love being suckered. You love being bamboozled and conned. I don't know what to do anymore. You see, if government isn't a guarantor of your liberties and your freedoms, and if it isn't tiny, And even when it's tiny, the founder said you've got to watch it every minute. It's so deadly dangerous. You've got to keep your eyes trained on it. You've got to bind it down with the Constitution and the rule of law. You've got to hold public officials to a higher standard. Instead, they prance around, I'm an official, I'm an authority, Your Excellency. I mean, I watch U.S. senators and others speak at the UN, and they go, Your Gracious Excellency. Oh. And the UN officials literally bow down and, walk backwards going, and these politicians just love walking up and being praised. They enjoy that. Everything he said on the tape was a lie. Everything. And we've got tape after tape where he says, the day I come into office, we begin bringing the troops home and they'll be back in 6 months. And then it's, we're going to look at bringing them back in 16. We're going to look at bringing them back in 23 months. And suddenly all these mainline liberals are like going, and they're saying, Alex, we've got to be reasonable. We can't leave the Iraqis hanging. This has got to be a controlled pullout. It's all the same stuff we heard from Bush. They're now regurgitating it because they feel like they got power. They got a stake at the table. They got a place at the table. Hey, don't you talk about Obama. Don't you talk about Obama. You're just jealous because he's up in the White House. And I'm like, no, the Iraqis want us gone. In their polls, 97% in the latest polls want us gone. Even the puppet government wants them gone. It's disgusting. Our troops are being killed.
No more secrecy. And when there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it. So that you know what your government's doing. When there are meetings between lobbyists and a government agency, we'll put as many of those meetings as possible online for every American to watch. When there's a tax bill being debated in Congress, you will know the names of the corporations that would benefit and how much money they would get. And we will put every corporate tax break and every pork barrel project online for every American to see. You will know who asked for them, and you can decide whether your representative is actually representing you.
And then what happened last week? Admittedly, it was Barack Obama said, no one can read the bill. It's got to come directly out of conference committee between the House and Senate, and it's got to be passed. And they were given less than an hour. No one was allowed to read it. 1,700 plus pages long, close to 1,100 pages long. And then he said, I've got to sign it the minute it passes or we're going to have a depression. And then he says, okay, I'm not signing it. I'm going on vacation. I'll sign it next Tuesday in Denver. I'll sign it in 5 days. By design, the old trick that Bush and everybody else does of rushing the Patriot Act through, rushing the last banker bailout bill through. No one was allowed to read the final version. And then it passed and we got it and it was worse than the previous versions. Total takeover by foreign banks. All lies. And he's having the meetings with lobbyists are secret. He's declared they're going to keep all the Bush secrecy. They're going to keep the powers that they claimed to the president that didn't exist. All lies. But see, now the Obama supporters are psychologically invested in him as a father figure, as a leader, as a savior. And so what are they saying when he lies? I'm reading their websites. I'm reading their blogs. They're going, oh, he's doing what he has to do to get things done. He rushed that through and none of us were allowed to read it because he wanted to help us. All lies. That was all from one speech. That was just a few minutes of that liar. Folks, I have hundreds and hundreds. There's so many lies that I can't even comprehend it all. It is a tsunami of lies. They go out to focus groups, both parties, and they find out what you want and what you are demanding. That you want transparency, you don't want special interest, that you want the Congress to read the bills. And then they go out and they lie to you and say exactly what you want to hear, and then they do 180 degrees in the opposite direction. And for all of you conservatives that call yourselves conservatives that attacked me in the last 8 years, calling me a communist because I exposed that George Bush tripled the size of government, pushed gun control, illegal wars, lying, trying to plant WMDs, staging terror attacks. You invested in him. You signed on to him. You signed on so that when Bush got attacked, you felt like you were being attacked. And the same thing's happening with Obama. And that's why you're going to lose your pension fund. That's why you're going to lose your job. That's why you're going to be a slave. That's why you're going to be in a police state, because you won't grow up and admit you've been lied to and suckered, and that this government is bankrupt and run by a bunch of criminals. A bunch of Bernard Madoff criminals. They are hijacking and looting us 7 ways to Sunday.